One more time, I say it's 7 actors and actresses.
You even talked about the kind of sex you like.
It did. In the first film, They Won't Forget.
In 1994, just a few months before taking her last breath, Lana Turner had a private conversation with journalist Florence Wagner, who had accompanied her for nearly 2 decades. On a cassette tape, kept secret until it was leaked in 2023, Lana, then battling cancer, softly sighed and uttered a sentence that stunned the entire crew into silence. I have loved 7 women, and in the end, all of them made me despise myself. No one could have guessed that the top Hollywood sex symbol, who had once made movie moguls and even presidents bow in respect, actually had a list of lovers composed entirely of women. What shocked people even more was the identity of those 7 actresses, legends regarded as the standard bearers of femininity in the history of American cinema. So who exactly are the 7 names Lana Turner once declared to be the ones she hated the most? Everything will be revealed in today's video. 1. Greta Garbo, the secret lover. No one was allowed to mention Greta Garbo, the legendary film star of the 1930s, once captivated audiences with her iconic roles in Grand Hotel and Queen Christina. After stepping away from the spotlight in 1941, she retreated to live discreetly in an old mansion on Franklin Avenue, Los Angeles. Few knew that in early 1946, Garbo had begun a quiet romance with Lana Turner, who had just recovered from a mental breakdown at Cedars of Lebanon Hospital. The two first met at a private exhibition by the artist Man Ray, held on the 3rd floor of the Getty Villa Museum in Malibu. That day, Garbo wore an all-black outfit with a silk hat covering half her face, while Lana appeared stunning in an ivory Dior dress. Just weeks later, Lana became a regular visitor to the Franklin Avenue house, where no clocks were ever present. The curtains were always tightly drawn, and classical music echoed throughout the long nights. Yet, those initial secrets soon turned into an obsession. One rainy night in April, while rummaging for medicine in a drawer, Lana discovered a small, hidden camera cleverly concealed inside an old RCA phonograph. Its lens pointed directly at the bed. A few days later, a film clip showing her asleep, hair tousled, clothes disheveled, was sent directly to her representative at MGM, with no message or sender's identity attached. Immediately, the studio's management summoned Lana to their office in Culver City, forcing her to sign a contract addendum titled Morality Agreement. This document strictly forbade any homosexual relationships, even discreet ones, for the duration of the contract. Later, Lana recalled that this commitment had forced me to treat my own feelings as if they were a crime. However, the deepest wound did not come from this harsh clause. A few weeks after the threats, one early morning, Lana unexpectedly saw a strange woman leaving Garbo's house. It was Marie Dubois, a French photographer who had lived with Garbo in Zurich back in 1943. That moment stunned Lana into silence. She realized she was not the only one, nor even Garbo's first love. She was merely the latest in a long line of women Garbo kept close until someone more captivating appeared. In 1953, when asked about her relationship with Garbo, Lana replied simply, I once believed I was the final chapter in her life. But then I realized I was just a recurring scene. 2. Barbara Stanwyck, the beginning of a downfall. If anyone asked Lana Turner about the first time she experienced the feeling of love, she would not mention any man at all. Instead, she would immediately name Barbara Stanwyck. And if asked whether she regretted it, her answer was always firm. No, I just wish I had realized sooner that it wasn't love. In September 1941, at the Paramount studio, Lana had just turned 20, still trembling with excitement over her first lead role after the success of Ziegfeld Girl. Barbara appeared in the lighting test room without bothering to knock, wearing a gray silk blouse, holding a cup of black coffee, her cold eyes not glancing at anyone. Everyone else lowered their heads. Only Lana looked up. And it was that very act of looking up that determined everything that would happen in the next 3 months of her life. Barbara never loved anyone. She only chose people she could exploit. For Lana, Barbara needed a public lover to soothe the rumors swirling around her broken marriage with Robert Taylor, as well as to hide the long nights spent beside a married producer with a wife and 2 children. Lana was completely unaware. She believed she was special, especially when Barbara took her back to bungalow number 5 behind the Beverly Hills Hotel, a place that Lana would later be shocked to discover had also been frequented by at least 3 other actresses, including one who once attempted suicide but failed. Everything began with pale blue pills, which Barbara called creative relaxation aids. Lana followed suit, driven by her desire to become like Barbara, confident, cold, and independent. Then from pills, she moved to drinks. From drinks, she slid down into fainting spells on the sofa, while Barbara remained sober, signing contracts with the big names in the distribution industry. The studio did not turn a blind eye. They watched, took notes, and just one night after Lana was caught in paparazzi photos with Barbara at Club Del Mar, she received an invitation to Louis B. Mayer's private office. There, she was forced to sign a morality agreement, which contained a short but chilling clause: avoid any private, intimate relationships with female colleagues without approval from senior PR department. That very day, all of Lana's prescription drugs were confiscated, and her private nurse suddenly disappeared. In her personal diary, she wrote, "I was treated like a depreciating asset." The climax happened one night at the end of December. Lana arrived at the bungalow earlier than expected and caught Barbara, wearing nothing but a bureau robe, pouring drinks for a director who had just won an award at Venice, a married man who had bluntly refused to give Lana a role, saying she lacked depth. Lana ran away and collapsed right in front of the hotel. The official news announced that she was hospitalized due to exhaustion, but the truth was she had suffered a severe nervous breakdown accompanied by withdrawal convulsions. Throughout the winter, she disappeared from the public eye. When she returned with the film Marriage is a Private Affair, people remarked that she looked sharper and calmer. But that was not maturity. It was merely the psychological aftermath, silenced by medication. If Barbara was the first person to make Lana lose faith in her own feelings, the next person would make her unable to trust anyone else, even herself. And Anne Sheridan was truly the darkest shadow in Lana Turner's memories. 3. Ann Sheridan. A relationship constructed by a manipulative hand. For Lana Turner, Ann Sheridan was once a rare source of support, offering her a sense of protection during the most exhausting days, when the press relentlessly swarmed following her third divorce. At that moment, Ann stood out in the crowd, wearing an elegant black dress with a... Their first meeting took place at the in mid-1949, premiere of the film The Fountainhead in Los Angeles. Standing nearby clearly saw Lana suddenly pause and then burst into laughter, her first smile after weeks of square neckline. She slightly leaned over and whispered something into Lana's ear that no one could hear. But those Lana had no idea that every time she smiled, every time she confided secrets from her broken marriage, behind the two-way Ann's personal assistant to avoid penthouse on Franklin Avenue, leased under the name Evelyn Moore of Gloom. From that point on, the two began seeking mirror. A handheld Revere tape recorder was steadily running, capturing every word. Then the unexpected happened. One night in October 1949, Lana received an envelope in the mail with no sender's name. Inside was a tape recording of the intimate conversations between her and Scandal. At the very end, a small piece of paper bore the words, "We have and Ann," accompanied by a copy of a handwritten letter Lana had sent to MGM expressing her desire to renew her contract after the divorce. Our director secretly dating. Their meeting place was an hourly rented pentry. There was no signature. But just 2 days later, director Irving Cummings suddenly dropped Lana from the project The Starlet's Confession, citing emotional instability. All calls to the studio were cut off. Every advertising contract was frozen. And on October 14th, 1949, after 8 hours locked alone in her room, Lana swallowed and was Fred Halverson, the gatekeeper at the Beverly Carlton Hotel, bottle of Nembutal. The first to find her, much more than this. If you believe your career can survive after a lesbian affair is exposed, then tell. He had noticed Lana's radio playing continuously for 3 hours with no change and the lights still on. The door was locked from the inside. When he broke in, he found Lana unconscious, her hair wet and clinging to her face, blood trickling from a hand injured by broken glass. On the dressing table to be at peace. Lana was lucky to survive after 3 days in a coma, but the story quickly leaked out. Clarisse Morel, a reporter for the Hollywood Spotlight, has killed a rose. Within 48 hours, the article spread a cable. A line written in red lipstick read, "If I'm not pure enough to be loved, then at least I want across America." Ann Sheridan never once visited her. However, exactly 1 week later, she appeared hand in hand with producer Jack M. Warner at the Motion Picture Herald Awards ceremony. But Citizen News was the first to break the news with the headline, She smiled radiant, a gift Lana had specially ordered from Tiffany's in Lee, a sapphire bracelet. Everyone following the story clearly understood. In this love affair, the greatest beneficiary, a laughingstock. Before 83, powerful eyes of was Ann Sheridan in July, sparkling on her wrist. And at that moment, 4. Tallulah Bankhead, the woman who Hollywood. The fourth figure on this list is none other than Tallulah Bankhead. In September 1948, Lana met Tallulah at a film party held at the Garden of Allah Hotel, who turned Lana Turner into, but never openly discussed. At that time, Lana was still a place where extramarital affairs were tacitly understood, struggling to move past the aftermath of a noisy public breakup. Tallulah appeared like an unexpected storm, handing her a gin and tonic before half-jokingly, half-seriously saying to show up, introducing her to a circle of underground female cigarettes and French perfume. Want to know how to live without them? Tallulah took Lana to places where no reporters dared out a man. What followed were nights immersed in the scent of because they were considered gender ambiguous. Lana felt no fear. On the contrary, she vividly sensed that she could truly be herself. But just as she began to get used to those embraces and trust that care, Tallulah suddenly pulled down the curtain. On January 18, 1940, from dating lists be artists. Women who had been blacklisted by Film Studio 9 at a cocktail party hosted by Columbia Canyon, attended by over 80, to cut the music and called Lana to step into the middle of the Columbia Pictures in a mansion in Laurel Canyon. Prominent figures in the film industry. Tallulah abruptly asked the DJ, but in truth, was just the keeper of my room key. Laughter erupted harshly, sharp as gunfire. Lana froze in place. No one came to her side. No one stopped Tallulah. Later, a close friend revealed that as soon as Lana got into the car, she vomited violently. Not because of alcohol, but because for the first time in her hall, all the guests thought they were about to witness a grand tribute or a formal recognition. Lana, though somewhat embarrassed, stepped forward, but before she could say a word, Tallulah pulled out a ring box, opened it. Inside was not a gemstone, but an old iron toilet keychain. For the only person who once thought she was a lover, she once held dear. It seemed the story had ended there, but Tallulah then sent a handwritten fax. 1957, when asked about Hollywood's most famous female friendship, she simply laughed for a long time and said, "Some people teach to the Los Angeles Mirror. Hollywood is full of lonely ladies." Life, she deeply felt the humiliation of public disgrace inflicted by someone. Acid. Nevertheless, after the episode with Tallulah, Lana did not shut her heart completely. On the contrary, behind the scenes of a Warner Brothers film, I only helped them wake up before it's too late. From then on, Lana chose silence. However, in 19 with a female star. This time, there was no mocking you how to love. Others teach you how to spit out feelings that seem sweet, but are actual set. She was drawn into another secret relationship. Have to leave America because of treason accusations. In 1950, after many years touring across Europe with the Allied forces, Marlene Dietrich returned to America. 5. Marlene Dietrich, the lover who almost made Lana laughter, but rather clear threats written in black and white. That woman was Marlene Dietrich. And that story was even more dangerous than any joke. Full of intrigue, drama, and conquests, America. Hollywood welcomed her, yet few suspected that behind that glamorous appearance lay a world driven not by love, but by power. A goddess returning to Olympus's peak, exclusively for a group of elite shareholders at the Power and Control. Lana Turner met Marlene at a private gala, hosted by Warner Brothers, Eclair Club. This event chandeliers and surrounded by looks full of hidden meaning took place just weeks after Lana had finished filming, and a secret sign meant only for those perceptive enough to notice. The hall, Marlene, whether out of curiosity or fate's arrangement, Lana was the very first to start a conversation. After just 3 secret dates, Lana unexpectedly was already seated at the far end of the table. Beneath dazzling shades, a leading role contract in an ambitious political film set in East Germany. She wore a tuxedo with no jewelry, except a single black glove on her left hand, was none other than Marlene Dietrich herself. Received from Columbia Pictures. Strangely, the script had never been made. Whispering into Lana's ear, Marlene left a haunting sentence. "You will not a life of her own." As Lana entered, was double that of her previous role. The person behind this proposal, public. The director was still unconfirmed. Yet the pay at private meetings of a left-wing intellectual circle in Brent, just be an actress. You will be a key pawn in my game. From that moment on, Lana began appearing alongside Marlene else's hand. Then, everything collapsed. In March, were carried out in a mix of French and Russian. Lana didn't fully understand, but she still sat beside Marlene like a beautiful pawn controlled by someone else. Star linked to a pro-Soviet group in California. The piece included a leaked black and white photo capturing Lana Turner. There, discussions about the Cold War and film industry power, hugging Marlene at a private party attended by 2 former members. 1951, the Los Angeles Examiner suddenly published an exclusive to testify before the House Un-American Activities Committee, HUAC, of the American Communist Party. The next morning, Lana was summoned to an investigative article titled, "Top Hollywoods So Began Considering Severing All Ties with Her." And Marlene? She had left for Switzerland a week. Only 3 months later, during a secret meeting with Marlene's former assistant, Lana learned the whole truth. It was a week earlier, abandoning Lana in the eye of the storm without any explanation. Attaching my name to a star in a vulnerable position is the fastest way for me to never love. It was only an image strategy. At a dinner in Zurich, Marlene had frankly said, "Longer than an ordinary person dying of old age." Lana nearly lost everything. Turned to the spotlight. If they burn her. Her entire film contract was immediately suspended. MGM's legal team also fine. A beautiful woman burned will be remembered long. She lived in hiding for over a year in Palm Springs. Even considering leaving, was the one who brought Lana to the edge of the abyss, coldly pushed her over. And this time, the next person who stepped forward, Joan Crawford, turned into a weapon. The reason was no longer politics, but fame. The 6. Joan Crawford, spotlight, and a lover turned lifelong enemy contract. At the end of 19, America to settle in Lisbon with her mother. Those days were filled with lying in darkness, mild sleeping pills, and dozens of threatening letters sent every week. But if Marlene, after a devastating Project Torch song. At that time, Lana had few options left. Invitation directly from Joan Crawford for a supporting role, written especially for her as her major contracts with MGM had ended. She was quietly put on a high-risk image blacklist by producers, meaning that in 1952, just after overcoming the political scandal involving Marlene Dietrich, Lana received an invite queen, like a secret lover. She gifted her luxurious Dior dresses, invited her to dinners with Alfred Steele, the chairman of PepsiCo, and her new husband. Lana believed she had found a close friend, a devoted patron, but it was all a fake surface. Behind the scenes, Joan constantly created situations that unsettled Lana. Last-minute script changes, forcing her to reshoot intimate scenes multiple times, and especially making Lana perform a kissing scene with another actress right in front of more than 80 crew members, even though the script had just an artistic kiss. As long as you're professional, Joan, no such scene. It's just said. However, the next day, a photo from that scene unexpectedly leaked to Confidential magazine. Whenever her name appeared in reports, investors hesitated. Joan was well aware of this and used it like a velvet rope to tightly bind Lana. At first, Joan proposed to treat Lana like with the sensational headline, "Turner trades roles for a same-sex kiss?" Lana to create modern cinema. Lana realized she was no longer a person, but merely a plunge straight into a harsh media storm. This time, no one stood up to defend her as before. The press collected the artistic sacrifice that both had made. Tool. While Joan was the lead, ran headlines. Sponsors threatened to withdraw from the projects she was involved in. Meanwhile, Joan calmly appeared on the cover of Life magazine, talking about Lana was just a part of that drama, the one controlling the entire game. An anonymous former assistant producer later revealed Joan sold acting contracts like stocks. She arranged roles, sponsorships, and even scandals like an underground producer. Hollywood Mirror spread rumors that Lana was chosen because she was vulnerable and easy to manipulate. During the same week, a series of articles in the sabotaging Joan of my life. After that near-suicide attempt, Lana withdrew from parties, declined 2 projects in negotiation. In her personal diary, Lana wrote only one line on the night of February 26th that year. "I drank half a bottle of sleeping pills, but then I woke up because I couldn't let her be the one to write the final chapter in Alfred Steele's marriage, making her afraid to leave the house for 2 whole weeks. Stayed behind, still wearing silk, bright red lips, then left Los Angeles briefly to undergo treatment at a rehabilitation center in Colorado Springs under a false name." Joan, meanwhile, then just when it seemed all the pain had receded into the past, an ordinary-seeming stick, and stepping onto the stage to receive the Golden Globe for Queen Bee with a deeply emotional speech. Only Lana truly understood the cruelty behind those rounds of applause. Woman, Jean Tierney, appeared like a miracle. Yet no one expected that Jean would be the reason Lana bore a silent burden for the rest of her life. 7. Jean Tierney, the woman who made Lana Turner, keep silent for life. Among the secret relationships that once deeply hurt Lana Turner, none left a wound as profound and lasting as Jean Tierney. This was not because of a lasting love. At a charity fundraiser who caused Lana to lose her honor, her career, and even her right to speak out. Love or public scandal, but because Jean was the only person they first met in early 1955.